Hello. Hello. Welcome to Stories from the Earth. My name is Jennifer Braverman. And before we get to our interview today, I just want to briefly say why I'm doing these interviews. The practice of herbalism is as diverse and dynamic as each individual herb and each individual herbalist. There are many ways to be an herbalist and many ways to interact with the plant world. Each herbalist takes their own path. This series explores the many ways to be an herbalist and who an herbalist is, as well as a discussion on herbalism today and where herbalism might be going in the future. Today we're going to be speaking with Jamie Sparks. Jamie is the founder of the Herban Pharmacy, Asheville's first herbal CSA, which is Community Supported Apothecary. She's an herbalist and a massage therapist, as well as a cat owner. I'd like to welcome everyone who's in the chat today. If you have any questions, please pop them in the chat if you can, like maybe in all bold, so I don't miss them. All right, we're going to bring Jamie on. Hello, welcome.
Hello, welcome. Yes,
Good morning.
thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah,
you're welcome. I'm very excited to have you on today. All right, so I love to ask this question because of herbalists. We love tea, and ultimately we are both drinking tea today. So I am drinking a turmeric tulsi blend. Tulsi for, I feel like it just sort of calms down my nervous system, and turmeric for digestion, since I have some digestion challenges. And would you like to describe your tea you're drinking today, Jamie?
Sure. I am drinking a blend of rose and linden or tilia and red clover. So yeah, and I had a friend who had a bunch of roses, so I got gifted some really lovely local roses, which that's a little more challenging unless you've got that. And then tilia and red clover that I'd harvested, and I just wanted I wanted that like floral lift. I've been really busy this week and haven't gotten sort of the lift of sunshine from outside in a physical form, so I wanted a little more like bolstering to my system, but still I'm seeing lots of clients, so keeping my heart open and discerning, but just that little happiness lift with some like red clover nourishment. Yeah, so
that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
A little like self-love with the rose, and taking care of yourself and everything else. So
yeah.
All right. I want to say hello to Heather in the chat. Good morning. All right, so I'm going to get to our first question today. So just briefly, tell us about yourself. And how did you first get interested in herbs and herbal medicine? And why did you want to become an herbalist? Why did you want to learn about plants?
Yeah. Well, I think when I was first in college, I was not really excited to go to college right away. So it was really like, I don't know what I want to do. And I kept thinking like pharmacy was coming up, being a vet was coming up, like things that were either, I really loved, even at that point, the way the the body could engage with and heal. So with pharmaceuticals, that even was of intrigue to me, just the power of the body, and then healing. And I was taking a class on plants and people, which was an ethnobotany class, and that just kind of sealed the deal for me, because that was more like everything that I wanted, which was really more connection with our natural world and sort of a slower life, slowing down, being connected to our ancestors, connected to the world around us, connected to the things that are in our life, so that even the mundane was sacred, even everything that was in your life had purpose, had intention. Someone had made it, things of that sort. So from there, then, yeah, I studied plant biology and environmental studies and was working with medicine women in Bahamas, and it mostly was teaching for a good while first. I was teaching college biology, and my professor was like, "You need to be a cell biologist." And I was like, all I want to do is walk in the woods. I don't want to do
You want to be in a lab, right?
Yeah, I was like, that's not my path. But I learned that I loved teaching. At that point, I really fell in love with that. So then, yeah, I was teaching children environmental education for a while, but any chance I got, I was teaching them, like we were making nettle tea and cordage and eating nettles and making elderberry syrup. So I was working with them and exploring that on my own. And yeah, had gotten that in school. There was a couple classes on herbalism that at that time wasn't as common in a very science heavy program. So anytime there was that, I would take that class. And I had a professor, James Cavender, who was very influential for me because he was doing a lot of my botany classes, but he would be way ahead, just nibbling on plants. I never saw him eat anything that wasn't on the ground. And for me at that time, I mean, this is way before internet, way before a lot of access, and I just didn't grow up with that access anyway. So this was just amazing to me and really, really hit home. Like, wow, I want to do that. So yeah,
Yeah,
that was kind of my start.
That's cool. I mean, who doesn't want to walk through the woods and nibble on plants?
Right.
Yeah.
And then that's, I guess, like to extend upon that, then I was the person having people over for dinner, and they're like, what weird things are we going to be eating? Because it was always, we're having chicken of the woods and we're having a nettle pizza, and I had a refrigerator full of like mushroom spore prints and foraged goods. Whereas a lot of my friends at the time were in art majors or business majors, and they would have me over for like pasta night. So it was really bizarre to them, but they enjoyed it, and I enjoyed sharing that. So yeah, so that was like the early start that then moved me forward. And it was more, and it's kind of a combination for me. I like to do the things that I feel passionate about, and I like to share those. And herbalism is one of those. So for me, it's more like aspects of connecting to oneself and connecting to the world, connecting to their healing. So I was a yoga teacher for years, and so connecting people that way, and then continued to move further with more herbalism, like moving out of the science plant biology world and further into herbalism and making more medicine, and incorporating that into my yoga practice, into my classes, into my massage practice as that came forward. So to me, it's all these levels of healing, and herbalism is one of those. And it just depends on the individual, which aspect is sort of their gateway to open into more possibilities. So,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That is because when you I think that when you told me about your educational background and the story that you just told, I think that's like a really amazing journey, and you got like to experience sort of a lot of little aspects of sort of a similar you have a lot of there's a lot of facets of this that herbalism touches on, sort of like herbalism's here, but there's like little spokes out to it. Yeah, that's very cool.
yeah, I feel like I have a pretty full tool belt of sort of a meta level of that. There's some folks who focus just on herbalism, and then they're really great at that, and they are diving deep into the science, and like there's just different aspects. So for me, that is more connected to nutrition, connected to how to move your body, connected to healing in multiple ways, being connected to your medicine whenever possible, learning what's in your backyard, but also having an idea of plants that are very far away. So yeah, like really this broader area where it's like, which seeds do you want? Kind of like a bag of wildflowers. Like, you know, you're going to get flowers, but the one that you thought you might have really loved might actually be different. You might actually fall in love with a different one. Versus if you have zinnias, you're going to get zinnias and they'll be lovely, but you're not going to end up with like an amaranth in there or something else. So just allowing for possibility of like other sparks that might need tended, and that are just other ways of healing, so that there's different avenues. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so two questions. What is your definition of an herbalist, just in general? And then how would you describe yourself? Like, how would you describe your herbalism? Or this might be the same questions, but
Oh, I think herbalist has, there's many tiers to that as well. Someone who is engaged with learning the medicinal properties of plants, but that could be someone who is a backyard herbalist just for themselves. That could be like they're the family herbalist, so they're making blends for their family, their aunt, things of that sort. Then we move more into like a community herbalist who's focused on their immediate community, maybe initially pretty small, just people they know, working with people they know, offering in that way, or maybe on a larger scale into their community. And then we have more clinical herbalists too. And generally, I find a clinical herbalist actually has done those other steps. They've courted the plants. They've watched those interactions between plants and people. They've worked with people that they're more intimate with, so that they actually are getting, hopefully, a more direct conversation with them about how the plants are affecting them. Because sometimes with clients, they're not always giving you as much information, but if it's someone that lives in your house, then you know, like, oh, I gave them this and I did see these changes. Or if it's a good friend and they're like, that gave me headaches. Oh, well, that's the opposite effect. So just more information to get, so that when they're a clinical herbalist, they have a better understanding of the diverse potentials that plants might have for different individuals and what's going on for them. So yeah, I think there's a variety of ways someone can be an herbalist, and or it can be someone who's mostly like a kitchen herbalist, and so they're really diverse with their spices. Maybe they're growing their herbs in pots in their apartment, and so that's as much as they have. But then they're really working with those in their kitchen, and they've even looked at the medicinal properties and healing benefits of a lot of those spices, because many of those are in our diet and are very aromatic because they're so healing. So maybe that as well. Yeah. And then for me, I how I describe myself as an herbalist. It's an interesting one, because I spend a lot of my time teaching herbalism. So I'm kind of more of a teaching herbalist. That's been highly my focus for the past number of years, because teaching is a lot to create different programs and things. So
yeah.
Teaching with a lot of focus on medicine making, and that I think is because I love that. It feels really empowering. That helps bring community herbalists in. So I think of like, I'm a bridge keeper herbalist. Like, I'm like, come to the other side. So then they're treating their family and their friends, and they have some medicine making skills, and then can decide which branch they want to and how they want to use that. So a lot of that. And then also, I could say I'm a clinical herbalist, but almost I consider more myself like a clinical, more like a supportive healer, because it's a lot more than herbalism that I'm going to offer in a session. And the plants are definitely a part of it, but it is a part of like what other avenues can we work with too, as far as nutrition, as far as little tools, just little like baby steps to lifestyle changes that can really help. I consider myself, I really sort of like the front end of herbalism and sort of the like far extreme. So to me, that's like the front end of preventative and lots of lifestyle changes to keep you resilient and vital from the beginning. And then first aid, which I also really love, and I've done a lot of acute symptoms to work with. And then I like kind of the far extreme of what's the ghost, or what's the energy behind the illness.
Okay.
And working on that end. So more of sort of that esoteric end, like, okay, what's the lodged trauma that's causing it to manifest in the body this way? Or what's the grief? What's the, what's the other issue there? So working on that level to kind of unwind that. So those are like my happy places, is these sort of like bookends. Yeah. So,
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's important to you mentioned being a bridge keeper, because at some point a lot of this stuff we do with herbs was more commonplace. Like, I was at work, and I made somebody a salve for, she had a massive bruise. She fell, and it was just like humongous, and I was like, yeah, I got something for that, and everyone was like, woo, and then I realized that, like, at some point in the past, like, these things were very common. Like, it wasn't like unusual. This knowledge was very like, get the Tylenol.
Yeah.
And then it's just supposed to get the willow bark or whatever. But a lot of times, I mention willow bark and people are like, hey, I'm like, yeah. It's the precursor for aspirin. It's what people got aspirin from. That's how they, you don't know this. But I just knew that from my dad, because that's one of the little tidbits of information she just likes to. Anyway, so I knew that from before I studied herbalism, but it's just really interesting. So, like, people are uncomfortable with it because it's gotten to be foreign. So if they just sort of dip their toe into it, it's very non-threatening. So I think that's a really good approach to introduce these methods of sort of healing to your clients and to people that you teach. I think that's awesome. So yeah, and so that's a great. So thank you for sharing. So was there as herbalists, we work with a lot of herbs, but was there one herb that had a large impact on your life at one time? And then why was it so important? If not, were there a few of, like, do you have like a favorite herb, or like an herb that's just really you're find yourself using a lot right now?
Right. I could say yes to all of those things.
I'm not giving you a smorgasbord, so just
Yeah. I tend to think the plants are just like, they're like relationships with anything else. You're not likely gonna, learn 50 of them really well at once. It's just like going to a party. You might resonate and connect with one or two people, and then you learn them more, and then there's a relationship there, and maybe that's a relationship for 20 years, or maybe it's a relationship that serves for a year or two. And relationships with plants are very similar. Those relationships in life are like that. So sometimes there's a plant that comes in for a very specific time, And then there's other ones that are there sort of over the long haul for a good while. So as far as one that sticks out as far as sort of monumental or that had a big impact in a moment in my early herbal years, I was in a program with Juliet Blancaspor at Chestnut School of Herbal Medicine back when she had first started it. And I had been having, and I had mostly lived without pain or could heal my pain through like yoga. I was really compliant with self-care and did a lot of that and had this deep nerve pain that I could not get rid of. It was not going away. It was keeping me up at night. It was running down my shoulder and into my neck. And we were on a field trip and I'd actually lost the key to my car. So the students were all going to go harvest plants that day. And I couldn't because I had to go wait for many hours for someone to come so they could make a key for my car. And at the time I had a friend who waited with me and then we went harvesting that evening.
Okay.
So we were harvesting by moonlight and we went to harvest pedicularis. And so I'm listening, I'm like, I've got my headlamp on and I'm harvesting pedicularis. And it's just these beautiful blossoms of shades of pink and orange and yellow and these big, lovely leaves that I find really aromatic and such a lovely smell. And listening to the creek, and my friend was done harvesting and laying in the grass or laying in the pedicularis. So I'm harvesting and then I stop and I just lay down next to them. And I've just got pedicularis blossoms like around my head and coming between my arms and my legs. And then the blue ghost fireflies start kind of trickling across to me at the same time. So it's this very like magic romantic moment with the plants. And at the same time, I had just been given a pedicularis tincture, which I hadn't had before, and was taking it. And it's the first time that I slept through the night and all that pain was relieved. And I also woke up feeling pretty alert, which is another thing I really love about pedicularis is it can really release the muscles, but I don't find it to leave any grogginess of any sort. So it's a lovely plant for that. So,
Wow.
So that, yeah. So that was sort of that double layer of magical, like in-depth connection with the plant in my natural world, while also having a pretty great experience in my body and how it was supporting me. Yeah.
I have heard the name of that plant, but actually that's one that I have not. Is there a common name that I might recognize, or that's just one I haven't worked with before. And could you just tell us briefly for a little bit more about the plant? And so for other people who also are less familiar, but that's amazing. So and was your pain just gone? Did it come back, or?
I believe it was, I took that for a few days and I believe it pretty much alleviated, there might have been a little bit of residual, but it mostly alleviated it pretty quickly. It was just like the muscles finally softened and then the rest of my body could do its healing.
Wow.
Yeah. It just needed that, like that lift to really get me there, it seems. So yeah. And that was our local one in like around here in the mountains. So pedicularis is one of the common names, but it's also often called lousewort. You also hear that. And the one here is a little more, people find it a little more gentle than the one out west, which I really love the one here. And that's what I'm most familiar with because I love working with the ones that I can handle myself. So that's the pedicularis canadensis. And it was in the Scrophularia family, but I think the Scrophulaceae family, I think it's in a different, it may have switched. So many changes are happening with families these days.
I know.
And I haven't been keeping up with that as much. And it is a musculoskeletal relaxer. So it can really relieve muscle tension and pain, and calm the body. So it just kind of calms this exterior tension in a really nice way. But it doesn't leave any like mental fogginess or anything of that sort. So yeah, so I use it for muscle pain and also just for relaxing into things that might cause someone tension. So if there's more like anxiety and tension, this is a great one to add in to kind of allow for more relaxing, if someone's propensity is to be more tense situation from and more like from trauma, not just from something that is causing that additional tension. It can help be sort of a bolster to move them a little more forward out of that.
Sounds like it might be a good like something to add into like a formula for work, maybe stress a little bit, you know, or maybe a transition into some part of life. I don't know, just
I mean, I think of it more specifically like I might use it if someone has a hard time relaxing, like into intimacy.
oh
So, yeah. So not as much like there's so many other. I mean, it could work in a pinch, but there's other herbs that could be supportive for like stressful work, things of that. But yeah, more where the body's really tight and tense and could use just a little additional softening of sorts.
And that's real important, and that's a subject that's not like often talked about. So that sounds like an amazing plant. So I'm gonna have to go and look that one up now. See, now there's a new one I've met. So
but in other plants that are like more common, rose. I love rose, and that's been a stronghold for some years now that I just love. I think it's starting to get more credit, but at least for my generation, it was more like I thought of my grandmother had lots of like rose scented and lavender scented things and fragrances, and that to me was not appealing. These like fake fragrances, and it reminded me of old people is what I thought. But really, I find it to be such a bolster, to open the heart, yet keep some discernment. It's a big, beautiful blossom, yet it has its thorns. So you have to come in with awareness. So I think it's exactly what we need in a world that's bombarding us all the time. So just really good for being able to blossom and shine, yet hold those boundaries and be able to like really move from your heart, but have discernment. So that's just one I love, both on a physical and energetic level. Yeah.
That's really funny, because when I was working on the title card for this video, I was thinking of doing a rose. I have a picture of a rose, and but when I put the picture up of the bee balm, I liked it, but that was my first thought. I'm like, roses, because I'm like sort of try to match up like the herbalist with an herb. I don't know, like just something that's cool. It's cool.
Well, and I think for me, rose is also so big because I do a lot of aromatherapy and skincare, and rose is a really big part of that. It's so tonifying and astringent for the skin, and is so aromatic. It's such a powerful essential oil. And also as a massage therapist and clinical herbalist, like I need my boundaries fortified, and so it kind of is it's one of those multi-level plants too.
Yeah,
there's support in many ways. Yeah,
it's a plant that like I didn't start out like really connecting with, but as I go along, it's one that I just feel like I love more and more as I get older. So maybe it is an old person plant. I don't know. You know, since I'm in my 40s, so I don't know. But in the best way, right? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, so Heather was saying that she looked up particulars and she's getting a common name as, is it also known as wood Bethany?
Yes, wood
Yeah,
Bethany is another name. Yes.
Okay, awesome. Cool. She says she knows it as wood Bethany. Awesome. So I did skip a question. I'm going to go back. So you've studied at a lot of, several herb programs. You've done some internships. What were some of your biggest takeaways from the programs that you studied, the teachers, and then that you feel had an impact on your practice of herbalism? From, I know you studied with Seven Song and Juliet Blankenspore, and you worked at the free clinic, the Ethica Free Clinic, which if we had more time, I would definitely want to dive into that, because that's just a very interesting subject for me. And anyway, so aside, if anyone doesn't know Seven Song, he's an herbalist and he's awesome. And he has a YouTube channel. So anyway, so look him up. Yeah, anything that stood out from?
Gosh, yeah. I'm so grateful for all the teachers I've had and what they've brought, and I believe in honoring what different people are bringing rather than whatever their shortcomings are of sorts, and that tends to happen more and more. And so I've gotten so much from every program. I tend to go into things like, what can I glean from this, like that this person has to offer, and focus there. So I've gotten so much from, oh gosh, every single teacher I've studied with. And I see that change for them throughout the years too, like how they teach and what they're offering. Let's see, my earliest teachers, as I briefly mentioned, was a professor in school, James Cavender, and that was really my first impetus for being an herbalist, just watching him navigate the woods and knowing every plant and eating things. And that was really like a spark for me. And he was really dear friends with Jim Duke. So then I got to spend some time with Jim Duke, and I was mesmerized because he was singing songs about plants, and there was just this sweetness that I fell in love with, of like sharing stories of plants, sharing their songs. So I really loved that. And in that same period of time was my first experience with United Plant Savers and Paul Strauss. And he was a big part of getting United Plant Savers in Ohio, and that's where I had first gone to school, was in Ohio. So I was blessed to be right by United Plant Savers, and also just blessed to be in a rural community that had a bunch of herbalists that were finding ways to interact with the community that had always been there. So finding that overlap, and also healing some land that had been pretty brutally hit through all sorts of extraction over the years. So just to see, to see and hear, Paul is also full of many stories. He has Equinox Botanicals in Rutland, Ohio, but bought land in his very young years and put a lot of effort into restoring the land. And that was, when he was like 18, he started that. And gosh, he's now, God, 60s or 70s, I imagine at this point, 60s probably. And to see how that land has fully recovered, even when I was in Ohio going to school, there was just Oh, so much industry. There's still old iron furnaces and lots of tailings from mining. It's just a mess. The national forest was a mess, and to see how that land has recovered with the support of the land will heal on its own, but to see that support and how that interaction between the humans helping to heal that land and learn that land was just really inspiring to me. So those are our first bits. And then, yeah, Juliet was probably my next big teacher, and that just opened up more doors and possibilities and offered a lot of that made me just really excited about bringing more my botany and my herbalism together and growing the plants and living with them, surrounding my whole being, having my gardens right there. And things as simple as you can have a school on hay bales with a tarp in your backyard, which is what she was doing at that point. And it was fantastic because it was so intimately meshed into her own like life as well. So that was really special to be a part of and to be outside for school the whole time. So yeah. And Seven Song, yeah, definitely another one of my primary teachers, and lots of first aid at rainbow gatherings at Calm, where first aid is administered, as well as a variety of other supports. Anyone who doesn't have access, they could come to see us, and it would be a group of us that were herbalists, acupuncturists, medics, nurses, all working together. And so there was some crossover of ideas to get to share and learn from each other, and excitement that way. And then to work with people on a variety of things. And the beautiful thing there, or that the thing that really excites me about something like a rainbow gathering is there's people aren't in a place where they can hygienically take care of themselves the same way. You're out in the woods for a week to a month. Yet their compliance is higher because they're just kind of rolling with rainbow vibe. So they'll come back every day. They'll come back 2 times a day. So you really get to see the progress of how a wound heals in a longer period of time. And of course, that's not always the case, but it is an opportunity. You're treating a lot of people. You see them come back. So you can really watch things in real time. And see often just the resiliency of the body with a little added supports from plants and doing some washes and a variety of things of that sort. Yeah. So yeah, and then getting to work with them at the free clinic. Yeah. So those were all really great. And I've had so many other teachers throughout the years that are also extremely influential. Frank Cook. He was extremely influential in just his desire to share wisdom, and that he always said, like, eat something wild every day. And I'm a firm believer in that. I pretty much eat something wild every day, and like to teach people simple ways that they can do that, and that wildness is right in their backyard. But when first learning that, I would journal at all the plants that I ate, and would just keep trying to up my numbers, and diversify, because even when most of us go to the grocery store, you kind of get your same things a lot of times. So to diversify and just get these little micro doses, so that my body is just a plethora of wildness, whether that's in the grocery store and in the backyard, and just blending. And it doesn't have to be huge amounts, but it can be small amounts too. And there's benefit there. Yeah. So
I started doing that myself with vegetables. Because I get like broccoli and Brussels sprouts, and kale, and I, stir fry them. And I'm like, okay. Well, one day they have purple carrots, and I was like, purple carrots. And so I incorporated some purple carrots in there, and it was amazing. And I love them because they're not as sweet. Mm-hmm. And as regular carrots, they have less carrotiness, and anyway, or maybe I just, and then I got a golden beet for the first time. Like, I don't know how to cook a beet. And they was like, you could caramelize them. I'm like, all right, because the way I stir fry it, it ends up caramelizing, and it was really good. So I have started because I was, with my digestion, I have IBS for everyone out there. Heather says, eat a wild rainbow. Yeah, so they tell you that you should put as many colors on the plate as you can. A rule of thumb. People might be familiar with that idea. And Heather says roasted beets. So yes, I know, Heather. I looked it up, but I didn't have time to roast them. So I noticed that you could just, caramelize them. So I stir fried them. But and it came out good. I was like, all right, you can eat them raw. So I figured, like, sure. So for a while I was very, like, I really had to eat a kind of a limited amount of things, but now I'm like, I need to start doing this and branching out, but it's very true. We get very locked in our ways, I think it's better for us if we eat a wider variety, and I know that sorry. Anyway, I was thinking about, like, I think it has a connection to do with our, like, past as hunter-gatherers, because we kept moving and changing and going through the seasons. And now we go to the grocery store and everything is, like, available all year. So it's, so you have to sort of simulate sort of the seasons yourself a little bit. It's hard. So I just lost where we were going, but Heather says yum beets. Yes. All right. So we're gonna, just will you practice and then tell us a bit about what to expect when somebody sort of comes to see you? Because I know you do massage and you've talked about other things, but sort of like when people walk in your door, what is that sort of initial process?
Or herb session? Or
I guess when they're saying, hey, I want to come see you for healing. So when I was looking at your website, I got the impression that, I guess sometimes you do just herbs and sometimes you do just massage, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it really depends.
Okay.
It really depends on what someone wants, because they're always kind of meshed in, but yeah, a clinical session would still be different from an herb set or from a massage session. Okay. But lots of times I have clients who will come for both. They'll come for a massage session because a clinical session is like a 2-hour process to go through a lot of details. So I might incorporate, but in my massage practice, I might incorporate different liniments, different topical herbal applications, different oils. I might incorporate stone medicine. Basically, I find that if someone's showing up for massage, their body's open and available. It's a safe space. So as many things as I can offer in, if they're willing, then that's a great opportunity when the body is more receptive to that, to do so. And usually, just like anything, the more of a relationship I have with a client, then the more in depth we get. So that might mean usually I'm offering stretches as well, but then they might be like, I actually want a whole regular hour session of yoga. So we'll do a yoga session to specifically work on imbalances in their body, or to ground them, or whatever it is that they're looking for. or they might be at that point like ready for more herbs, and they're like, I actually want an herb session. So they are separate entities that can all come together. It means I know someone way more in depth. I know their physical body. I know how they're holding their tension. So I already know them enough to work in another way. So yeah, so overlap, but yeah, there's still the bulk of a session is still because it's a focused thing. So that focused time is still going to be a specific session of that. Yeah.
Okay.
But it could be any number of those things depending on what they want. Yeah. And it's just a matter of like what people are ready for. Like if someone is focused on herbs, then we'll do an herb session. Like it's really again, it's which avenue of healing is someone ready for, because that's what they're excited about. I think of that with yoga too, like especially here, the 8 limbs of yoga, and asana is one of those. So that's the physical moving of the body, and that's pretty big in the US. But lots of times once someone gets into asana, then they start moving into the other branches. But it's just kind of finding what is that gate. And then as the body has more resilience or is more curious, then there's space for other things. So
Yeah.
but it's always got to come from the individual and what they're excited to hook onto if we really want to get somewhere with it. Yeah.
They sort of create an individualized sort of program, I guess, an individualized, you pull from your tools and your to create a sort of a plan for what that individual needs to do the healing that they need to do.
Yeah. I have a lot to pull from depending on where someone's interest lies, because it's always based on what the individual wants. So if they're curious, then I have that information, or can come up with a strategy for that information, hopefully. So if they're like, what would a yoga practice look like? Or how often should I come for massage? Like if that's the thing that's feeling right, then that's where we'll focus. But if they're like, I want herbs, I want to focus more on my digestion, or, just it depends on what we're focusing on, and what they are focusing on is really it. It's coming from where that person is most excited and has the most momentum.
And that's really cool, and really, of course, it's really different than what you get at your conventional medicine doctor's office, where like they're more like it's just a different way of healing and or looking at health, because you feel like they're my words are failing me today, guys. Sorry about that. What I'm saying is that, like, if somebody, some people are, when you go to the doctor's office, sometimes you leave feeling very, I mean, at least I do. I find it a lot of times not very empowering and very frustrating. So what a different experience it is to have someone ask you what you would like to do and where you would like to go, and have the sense of working with you and exploring sort of together. And I think that's really cool. So Jamie's links are in the description if anyone wants to go see her. But I think that's something we definitely need more of, this idea of meeting, being more empowered and taking more control over your own health, and having somebody help facilitate that. And definitely think that is, yeah. So that's amazing. Yes. What a wonderful way of helping people.
And it's the other layers. Like often when someone's going to a doctor, there's something that's really wrong that they're having looked at. So
Right.
there's what I just described might be a different purpose. If there's something really serious going on, then we're going to look at some things and try to find that balance, and maybe give some herbs that will help ease the situation in the meantime. But it's looking for more, I mean, hopefully long-term goals, long-term results that they can depend on their own body and their own choices to help manage, and maybe get them off whatever medication or need to go to the doctor less, things like that. It's empowered, and to also be able to answer a doctor's questions more thoroughly. Like, I know this about my body, so I can share this. I know this is different from what the doctor's observing, because ultimately we know our body's best when we're paying attention. So it's really trying to create more of that connection again.
With our, yeah, I'm sorry. I always sort of do this, and I think that conventional medicine is awesome, as well. And it has a, and it's a very important, piece of a healthcare puzzle, very good for looking inside you, very good if you need surgery. Sometimes those pharmaceuticals are what you need. So again, I don't want to give the impression that I'm, that it's awful. But I think what gets lost is that this other piece, that you help facilitate, and we really, feel like, I feel like we're disconnected to our environment, and we're also disconnected to our bodies. And I mean, that's what my health sort of crisis was about. And I had to get, reconnect my mind and body, because they were not working together. And basically there was nothing medically wrong with me, but so I had a whole mind body thing. And I always, I've always ran. So my entry into this whole healing thing that happened to me, was running. I started running again, even though I didn't feel like it. But that, and then everything sort of happened from there. But yeah, I think it's very important to, be connected to ourselves and listen to ourselves, and because ourselves are saying things, and and I'd like myself to talk to me instead of giving me massive gas or something, hey, so that's how my body communicated with me that there's something wrong. I wasn't listening, and it needed to be louder. But there are many levels. Everyone is in a different spot in their healing, and they need different things. So anyway, what inspires you about working with plants?
Well, probably more of what I've already touched on is just that connection piece. I feel like it is connecting me to my natural world, connecting me to the seasons, connecting me to the changes in the seasons, connecting me to my ecosystem and microclimates, and having to be curious as to like, where does this plant grow, so that when I'm scanning broad picture, I can be like, that might be a place that it grows. And then looking more specifically into like, is this a wet area? Is it shady? Is it north facing? Is it south facing? And having enough of a relationship to know who might grow there, what time of year is it. So those layers, being connected in that way, feeling connected to knowing, like when I go out, I'm not as focused on like, I am harvesting this plant. I go out maybe with that intention, but I also really try to have the space to be a little less attached, because I want to hear what the plants have to say to me. So if they're not presenting, or I find a population that feels too small, or they haven't recovered from when I harvested, or if someone else harvested, then I want to hear that. Or if I'm just getting a sense that it's like, you can harvest one plant for you, or sit and draw this plant today. I really want to listen to that, because I think they do have voices, but they're really small unless we listen. So if I ignore those voices because I come with a motive, I'm not going to hear those voices. Same in our human interactions, when there's a motive and we're pushing boundaries, but I really want to hear those voices, so I try to tend that as best I can. And that might mean I drive 2 hours in the hopes to harvest something and find out that it just doesn't feel right. So then I don't harvest it. So then I might sit and draw that plant. Or the more I know, the more I can see what else might present itself. And maybe there's, I don't know, a down birch tree. Oh, so suddenly I'll harvest birch because this tree is already down and it's a fresh down tree. Or I find, I don't know, maybe a toxic mushroom that I can't eat, but it would be a great dye plant. Or I find something that would make good cordage, so I'm putting that in my pocket. Or I find another plant that I wasn't even thinking of, that I'm like, oh right, that's in bloom right now too. Or I'm at a different elevation, so I still can harvest that, and it's a really abundant amount. So I think just that connection, but that openness to be curious is what really is what guides me. And also that, I mean, I'm looking out to my backyard, like filled with trees right now. And I'm blessed to live in an area where that's the case. But even if you live in a city, you can see who's able to come through the cracks, who's resilient. There is hints of weeds, the really resilient ones popping through. If urban planners are curious, then they can offer fruit trees to a community, or and then that brings people together too. That creates more connection. They're like, what are you harvesting? Can you eat it? So there's just all these layers to it. But I think that's the biggest thing, is it's a piece of connection. And I think, as you had mentioned, it just brings us back to like those our hunter-gatherer ways too, back to like a foraging side. I mean, I think we're doing that in the grocery store, kind of looking around. So there's a sense of foraging, so it just connects to something deeper, and just being more connected, which I ultimately think that's deep down what we all want, is a greater sense of connection.
I think so. So I definitely feel that more when I go to like well, it's called hopi, but it's sort of a local, like, not really a Denton Bent, but like a sort of store in our area, and you go, and every week it's different, and it's like, ooh, what am I gonna find? And it just sort of lights you up, and yeah. I've definitely experienced that myself too with the plants. Like, I went to harvest mugwort, and there was not the right time. It just was, my friend had trimmed it way back, and then what was left looked terrible. So I got yarrow, which looked good, and I was like, oh, okay, we'll go with this. So yeah. All right. So, do you have any favorite herbal books you would like to share with a curious public? Any ones that you loved? Any ones that you think might be good for someone who's just starting to learn, or yeah.
So many.
Too many. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. Great. I think probably my first, as far as there's like older classics, and I've seen some of your shows, so like thinking of other books that maybe haven't already been tossed out, because there are some good ones. But probably, if someone likes like fun older books, like one of my first one was The Green Pharmacy, by James Duke. And I wish I had the visual, but those are at my massage space and apothecary, and I didn't get the list till I haven't made it there today. So yeah, but that's just a fun book. He goes through both sort of like scientific, researched and studied herbs, but then also lots of hearsay. Well, this person treated themselves with this, but I don't know if that works. So it has little bits of like folklore and what different people have found worked, but also some science to it as well. And you can probably pick it up for real cheap, and it's just a fun book for like, oh, I've got this thing, so it's really quick to like look up in the index and then look it up and see if there's a resonance there. So that was an early book for me. Other ones that this is one of my favorite herbalists is Tommy Bass, who was a Appalachian herbalist in Alabama, very much a folk herbalist. That was he died in the 90s, and was really about like easing people's pain, and was living in a little plywood shack and making people jugs of tea and healing his community. And his book, I had that book for a while, Mountain Medicine, which I just have learned is you can get it on Kindle. It's out of print, so it's really hard to find the actual book, but I just saw that you can get like a Kindle version of it, which is really nice. But I read that book cover to cover because it is stories. It is his stories of working with plants, very much folk medicine. And I love stories, and I love stories of people. But, this is way before the internet. This is walking the woods, learning from the plants, learning from how it helps people or doesn't help people. So really learning really hands-on rather than from something on Google. So
Yeah.
really connected to that. So I really appreciated that book, and it was just loads of stories that I enjoyed. So yeah, you can find that book, but also there's a folk stream interview too. And folk, yeah.
And that one's called Mountain Medicine.
The folk stream interview is just Tommy Bass. It's like a 45-minute one. So he also has a book, Trying to Give Ease. That's a book about him, and that one is in print. But Mountain Medicine is one that I really enjoyed as far as stories go, and more to me, I'm so interested in like the culture of it and more the Appalachian folklore and that medicine.
Yeah, me too. Here's a just a Goodreads link to the Mountain Medicine book, so everyone has a see if they can find.
And then that folk stream interview is really great too.
Folk stream.
There's a lot of documentaries about folk life. Yeah.
Ooh.
Really great resource for all sorts of things.
Is it just folk stream, one word?
I think it is one word, yeah. Folk streams.
Folk streams, yes. Documentary film, American culture.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, preserving the stories of America.
Mm-hmm.
and put that folkstreams.net. So yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, if you weren't fortunate enough to sort of grow up with like, my family's from New York, so we do not have like we didn't grow up in these mountains. So we don't have like a granny who used to do some of this medicine. But I remember I used to work with a lady, and she grew up here, and she used to tell me when she was little, they used to go to like a herbalist, but probably I don't know if they called her that, and she had this inside her like house or wherever she did her medicine. She had these roots like tacked to the wall or something, and there weren't any like names on them, but she knew what each one was. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's a lady I'd love to meet, but unfortunately I can't. But so yeah, this is awesome. Very fascinating. I'll have to dig into that. Because I sort of, I'm not originally from here, but I really like, I'm really interested in the history of the area, and how people used to use the plants and all that stuff. Is that?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Kitty's getting in everything.
Yes. All right. All right. It's time for the kitty. Cool. Let's see that kitty. Oh, look at this. So, what is her name again?
Her name is Ayla.
Ayla. Hi, Ayla. Welcome. Oh my gosh. And I just love all the videos you have, and I love that you take her on little walks in the woods, and that's just amazing. Perhaps we have talked about this, but I mentioned that I really loved all of your cat posts on YouTube, on Facebook, and all the little videos, and it's really silly, but like, we have on YouTube, they have all those like cute animal videos, and they really do just like just, there really is something about just watching a bunch of animals just hanging out, just doing their thing, and so you mentioned that one of the reasons that you hope that that your videos and posts of your cat would help bring people some joy. And so I was wondering if you would like to sort of expand on that just a little bit, on because looking at a cat picture doesn't seem like a form of healing, right? It just doesn't like seem like that, and you're like, oh, it's silly. All those, there's a reason that there's hundreds of YouTube videos about like animals doing stuff, right? Like but there's this connotation of it being silly. But like, what are some things that like are less obviously like maybe a way of healing, a way of bringing in joy, and maybe some of the things that might bring us some balance in kind of this crazy time, like the cat pictures, like I don't know. I think people are sort of looking for I don't know. I think that you know, if someone is maybe at a loss of where sort of like they might bring in some daily self-care, something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's gonna again be dependent on like what kind of brings someone their bliss. And I mean, my personal experience, I think I'd mentioned, like I've always been like really good at self-care. Like I've loved, I mean, when I was younger, it was like dancing and singing and taking care of friends and then hiking in the woods and then moving into yoga, and I was raw vegan and vegetarian and totally caffeine free and alcohol free, and so always exploring different things. But this was when I had a lot of resilience too, so those things I had resilience, so I could tackle huge amounts of those. Like sure, I can do a 2.5 hour Ashtanga practice, and then I can do an hour meditation, and then I can go run, and that's all before breakfast. And that was like,
wow.
that was how I operated, and that worked for me, and I was really resilient. And then the universe presented me with epic amounts of traumatic things in a very short period of time, and I watched my resilience dropping as I kept getting hit. Generally, three big things in a year can often put people in a clinical depression. And that's different from like if you have one big thing, you can recover and you may have to adjust your self-care. If you have 2 or 3, or suddenly it's 5 years of it, then that's going to shift that. So instead of being like, I went through this and others do, like, oh, I can still do all that yoga and still do that, but that was a far stretch. So it's reaching for what are those bits of joy, those bits of hope, those bits of resilience that are attainable, rather than thinking it should be this way, it must be this way, or creating goals that are not obtainable. So looking more at like, okay, maybe instead of a 2-hour yoga practice, it's to start with 5 minutes of stretching while your tea water is boiling, or while your breakfast is being made. Or making sure you get up early enough that you can actually sit and have your meal, or that you're going to journal while you drink your tea. So it's these little things. And once it's 5 minutes, then if that's been a month, then maybe it's 10 minutes. So you can slowly increase it. And that's the same with cat videos. Like if someone's really, really struggling or is in a deep seat of depression, the big focus is how to remember what it's like to feel joyful.
Yeah.
And so a cat video is that. It's not, you don't have to do everything to get yourself to do the yoga practice. It's starting with things that help to transform that space. So that might be a cat video where you're feeling connected to watching something cute and quirky run around. For me, the cat videos that I started posting were exactly that. Like it's proven that cat videos do help people. But I admit that I thought people that did lots of cat videos, I was like, it annoyed me so much. But then I realized, especially in this time when we were quarantined and with COVID and people engaging less, we're craving connection. So for me to have a little kitten, and I can post videos where people get to watch her grow and watch how she's changing, is to me that's something that allows hope. If you're living alone and you get to see this little kitten and you feel more connected, it's an opportunity to be like, oh, that little kitten does this, oh, look at this silly thing, oh, she's gotten so big. So it's connecting the same way that we do with other humans, where we get to see growth. So an opportunity for some fun, silly growth. So I think it's the same reason a lot of times I hear more people watching shows right now, watching series. And if you're not getting as much human interaction, it's a way to feel like you're connecting with humans and watch them have character development. So it can be, these can be unhealthy things, but if you're being honest with yourself, can you use it as a healthy tool?
Yeah.
So that's it. And that's with a lot of it is, and back to like how I work with my clients is exactly that. If they're not a tea drinker, I'm not going to make them herbal tea because that's just not going to work for them. So it's what are things that they actually can do? And the more honest someone is with themselves, the deeper we can get. Like, I'm not going to take a tincture. Okay, well, will you drink a tea? Okay, I might drink a tea. Okay, so let's make tea for 3 days so it doesn't have to happen every day. So it's finding strategies that work for an individual. And the more honest they are, the more we can find strategies. And it also feels good. If you do your 5 minutes of yoga for a month, that feels better than like I said I would do an hour and then you're like, I only did 5 minutes. So it's making those goals and then keep upping them. Like, okay, I did that. So what if I do 10 minutes? So having some far reaching goals, but also some that are obtainable. And if a cat video is like, I'm going to watch a cat video and I'm going to laugh and then I'm going to just remember what it feels like to laugh or to feel it's transforming out of those places where everything's really hard. Yeah.
Yeah, just a smile is a big thing, and when I was learning all about digestion and what's good for digestion and stuff like that, my forget if it was my therapist or my person I was going for body work massage said smiling is good for your digestion, just laughing and like just doing this, and sometimes I realize that I'm not doing that, yeah, and it, I mean, we think that like once we like reach adulthood, we're like gotta be adult, can't do these things, right? But like, I think the thing that, but when you get older, you're the same person, like my love for, I don't know, well, you can see the big stuffed cat. Anyway, so like unicorns and stuff like that, and like things that like, I mean, I play video games. I love Christmas lights. I just, like, I love markers, just stuff like those things that I loved as a kid. I still love, and they bring me joy, and I think that they're really important. So along with other things, so that like the cat video may be like, hey, it's supposed to be a silly thing. Well, yeah, but it's good, like, so anyway, I'm gonna keep these on.
Yeah. And that's good stuff too. Yeah. It's finding those things that bring joy so that there is more resilience so that you can keep making changes towards like balance for each individual. So, and that might be cat videos. That might be, I don't know, a song from a time where life felt really good. So you listen to that song. It might be cat ears or a unicorn hoodie, things that just, yeah, it might be comedy sketches or making your favorite place your screensaver, different things that help to, those little things help to make bigger changes. It's like if a bigger change is not attainable, you start with the small ones and then move to the bigger ones. So, and it's just being intentional because it's, you don't want to be gluttonous in it. So it's also there's statistics that prove actually like, material things do bring a sense of joy short term. So it's using those short terms to actually create the longer term that bring joy. And sometimes that's bringing in those little things that bring joy, but then depriving yourself from them, and then they'll bring more joy. Like, oh, I only drink coffee on the weekends. It's going to taste way better than drinking it all week long. So,
yeah, we have like a fun money, but we have a budget of fun money where we get a certain amount of money a month that we can spend on just things that we don't need that are fun, like, but it's, it's limited. So like, that's why we have a budget. It makes it fun.
Right.
It just makes it fun.
And this is the same with the herbs. It's like if something doesn't taste good to someone, you might try to make it more palatable, like put some licorice in so it's got a bit of sweetness if that works for them, or if they like Tulsi, or maybe it's stevia, or maybe it's roots that are being mixed into hot chocolate until we can start to wean the hot chocolate off. So
right, yeah.
ways to make it not feel like torture to someone if that's how it feels. Finding ways and strategies, or like, okay, if you take this bitter herb, then you can have your sweetness later. Balance it.
Right, yeah. The spoonful of sugar really is a thing. You know, it really is a thing, and it comes into play. I have issues swallowing pills, so I had to take all my ended up in an herbal medicine, integrative medicine doctor. So like I had to open up all my supplements, and they were really gross. So I had to take them with chocolate syrup and chocolate almond milk, because this was like some of the foulest tasting, like, I mean, it was like salty sulfur. I was like, are you? Anyway, so, but that was, my doctor was like, I don't want you doing that sugar. But I'm like, this is the only way I'm going to take my pills. So it worked. It did. It worked. Just a little bit, and I was able to take it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to take it. But that. So yeah. Okay. So Heather has said she's been watching Orphaned Otter that was rescued in Vancouver. I guess that's a. And then some things from the chat. So my friend Roman Biscotti says, it really does. I get so relaxed from looking at a picture of the galaxy, for sure. And unicorn anything, she says. So just so, oh yes. So I'd love, before we go, we need to talk about urban pharmacy. Definitely cannot go without that. So tell us about urban pharmacy. Why did you start it, and what is community supported herbalism?
Yeah. So urban pharmacy was started. I was finding I was foraging, and then I would give up my plans for the night because I had a big harvest, and I would listen to music and books on tape and process herbs. And I noticed that I would just spend my evening doing that. I would give up time. I have throughout the years seen folks who will harvest and then they won't give up their plants, and then those plants mold or they get left in the car, or it's not where they're prioritizing their time. And I was like, well, I'm already doing this, so why don't I do this for more people? So then I decided to start foraging. That's when I basically started medicine making on a larger scale, but it was community as a CSA or a CSH, Community Supported Apothecary, Community Supported Herbalism. So the idea was to offer medicine to folks. It was very much educational based at first. So it was seasonal shares that then came with really in-depth newsletters, all sorts of slants and angles to the different medicine that was offered. So folks didn't know what they would be getting, but it would be things that would be supportive for most folks throughout that season. And then a lot of information and links and reading material to connect with that. So that was the first run of it. And also a lot of it was also community supported because it was a lot of urban foraging from certain things. So learning from folks like, hey, I've got a hawthorn tree and I've lived here 15 years and I don't use pesticides. So really learning, evaluating people's land, seeing what they had in abundance, making that into the medicine that their own community was using. So those were the layers of it before I started farming more of it. And then I was farming and still running the CSA. And now it's mostly, I'll still do shares. They're not that same, more people will get a share per season rather than, it was monthly, but now they'll get a share for the whole season, and we'll have some of that information, and they get to pick and choose a little bit more. But a lot of it is education at this point. So a lot more education focused. I'm still harvesting from abundance of community members that have things in abundance that they want to share. And then the community knows that if I'm out, because it is still really based on what I was able to grow or forage in that year, rather than I'm not buying huge amounts of medicine to keep a large inventory from I mean, there's some amazing larger herbal companies, but that medicine is coming from all over. It's really trying to keep it local. And when I'm out. So folks kind of know, like, hey, do you have this? I'm like, you better get this. I've got 8 ounces left or something like that. So that also means I'm getting to engage more because I have direct relationships with folks that buy from me. They know that I can cater to their needs more. I have folks that are like, hey, I picked this up at the tea house 3 years ago. Do you still have this? It really worked for me. I'm like, well, I have something almost like that. So there's some very set formulas that I offer, and those are ones that I sell. And then there's things that rotate according to the season or what feels guided. And not just guide, like things that I see that are in need, and then creating formulas specifically for that, or what's in abundance from what someone was able to offer, what I was able to forage. So yeah, still shares, and I'm gonna have an updated version. I'm kind of thinking about shifting it with COVID. So there's a lot of things in the works right now, shifting. And a lot more is going to be community supported through education, through offering more of that through YouTube, through Patreon. So doing more of that to get that information so that people are more empowered with some of that basic stuff. But then that they know they can also get medicine from me when that just feels too much to produce enough for their family.
Yeah. The link for Urban Pharmacy is in the description, as well as there's Jimmy has a Etsy shop as well. And she just started her YouTube channel, so I don't have the link up. And I think there aren't any videos yet, but that's very exciting. And so you mentioned that there's going to be some classes. Would you tell us what those are going to be about and how people could participate? Are these going to be in person? Are they going to be online? Or just...
Sure thing. And I was trying to find my YouTube link for the future.
Let's see. What is the name of your channel?
It is under my name, but there is quite a few of that. It's Jamie Sparks. Yeah, but that's because I wanted, it's gonna be herbalism, but then also
Let's see.
yoga. It's more of this all encompassing, because I have massage clients who then I give them stretches, and so that they have videos, or for anyone else who has videos or can't get to see me every month or every week, as well as foraged videos and medicinal videos. So there'll be a variety there. And yeah, I'm just, and
Yeah,
then there's a bunch. Did you find a bunch?
Well? Yeah. So
let's see.
you don't have any pictures, you don't have any videos up, right?
No.
Wow.
I don't know if I know how to do this for you. Let's see. Can I post it? I don't know if I can comment. Doesn't look like
You
I can.
know, but we can always put it up later.
Yeah.
Um,
And there'll be videos soon.
um,
I'm
yeah,
moving
wow,
into the tech world.
wow. Maybe I can type in herbalism, like by your name. Maybe that'll. Well, it came up. Yeah.
I just sent it to your Facebook, so maybe
Okay.
that will help.
Okay. Awesome.
But in the meantime, as far as classes, and this will continue, I'm just, it's getting through the last bits of forage season. So then the winter will be more focused on classes and more videos. This is not one of my um, this is not one of my easy on the full tool belt sort of thing. So learning the technology, so moving more into more online videos, more online classes. I've had some, and I'm going to increase that. So I have classes, and these are on my website. More information will be coming on those. But I have classes in November on the 7th and 8th of November right now. And the 7th is making herbal vinegars.
Ooh.
With a focus on fire cider,
Nice.
but herbal vinegars in general. So it doesn't have to just be fire cider. And then Sunday will be syrups and elixirs, specifically elderberry. But the difference is between elixirs and syrups. I see people getting really confused. Elderberry's gotten popular, but a syrup is different from an elixir and what constituents you're going to be able to get. So talking more about that, how you would use those, how you would make those. So 2 things to really prep people for this changing season. Simple things that most people really enjoy that can be incorporated both medicinally but more in a dietary way. So those 2 classes are up, and then I will be having more throughout the winter. Usually I wait till after the holidays. I may do like a holiday special one. And then those will both be live Zoom classes.
Okay. So that's
And
November.
then those are November. Yeah. And then hopefully I can fit one more live in-person class, and I'll probably do a cordage class.
Nice.
Those have been really successful. It gets people involved with their hands, learning other ways to use plant materials. Cordage it's a core skill as much as feeding ourselves. Like so much of our life is fabric, and textiles is made of yarn, of string, of cordage. So that's a great, and it's very meditative. It's a really nice thing. So I'll probably also do another live class of that. I have the materials foraged, so I should be able to slide another one of those in before the weather gets too daunting. So I'll probably do that in November as well. And those will all be on my website. Usually they're on my Instagram page as well.
Which I did not link, but I can. Is that just under Jamie Sparks as well on your Instagram?
No, that's Urban Pharmacy.
That's the Urban Pharmacy. Okay. I did link your YouTube channel in the comments. And then
soon there will be things. Very
soon. Yes. I'm really excited. You and one other person I'm going to be interviewing, they have like 2 videos up. I think they did, and I'm blanking on their name, but anyway, they are also just started a YouTube channel. So this is I'm excited. Maybe we can collab. I don't know. Bring more of this stuff to. I mean, especially now that we're sort of all, can't meet in person. It's challenging because herbalism is very hands-on. It's very out in the woods. It's very so it doesn't always transfer to like a more like internet visual medium, but there's still things that we can chat about, discuss, show, learn, and so I'm excited. So
well, for me, it's an opportunity to teach more herb classes so that folks, while they're at home, they can learn simple things that that they can make from their kitchen throughout the winter. For me, a lot of it is seasonal, like what's needed. So for me, that's going to be making a lot more videos for folks, but also, yeah, supportive exercises to release muscle tension, to release some of that tension. So in addition to like what herbs might be anti-inflammatory or analgesic, but what stretches might alleviate that pain, or our energy gets locked in our muscles. So finding ways to release that so that it is lessening the need to go to the doctor, or even, I mean, I don't want to put myself totally out of work, but keeping folks from
Right.
needing to come as regularly, things that they can do to be empowered in between coming to see me that can help them out. Yeah.
And I think that's important, like it's important to go see, to go to someone for their expertise, but also it's important to be able to take things away from it so you can do them on your own and work them into your routine. Like that's been definitely my experience, because with my health issues, I found that it can feel very unempowering. You feel like I can't do anything about this situation, but you can. I can go run, and that is something that I can do that can contribute to my digestion working better. I can do that. Or I mean, I can't give myself a massage. I have to go to a massage therapist for that. But I can do acupressure. I can do other things, and I think that that's like in a very, I've definitely found it a very important part of just those things you can do. So yeah, that's great. There's a lady who has she has workouts every day. She's been doing little workouts. She's connecting them to witchcraft. She does witchy like workouts, but yeah, which she's got like 40 of them or something. She's just sort of been doing them every day. So that's what that reminds me of, like just things like that, to work in the routine. So that's exciting. I'm excited and everything. So
I did just post my Instagram to your Facebook too, so you can link that.
Cool.
It's like Herban_farmacy, because everybody's trying to get the same names of things sometimes. Got to change it. I wish I could have everything in the same, but hasn't worked that way.
I mean, yeah, my my YouTube channel is a slightly different name than my other stuff. So I'm going to post that now. And I'll post everything into the description later. So when everyone's watching the replay, it'll be there, and you can follow all the links and keep up with all the awesomeness. So so you're still doing shares, right? And so people can go on the website and even if they don't live in Asheville, can they also? Okay, cool.
Yeah. And that's a lot of how I switched it, because there's plenty of people who don't have access. So it's an opportunity to have it shipped to you and have some medicine to have a connection to, because I give a lot of information. Yeah. So I actually think I might list them on Etsy this year. I'm not sure. Yeah. But I'll update that. There's an old form from last winter, but have an updated form for people to get updated shares for this winter.
Okay.
Yeah.
Heather says that I think you would always have clients. Not everyone is moved to create their own medicines or have it in their budget to do so. Yeah. So that's true. Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, some people, want to make this medicine, and other people want to be able to purchase it from somebody who knows how to do it. I mean, it's just everyone's got different skills. So,
yeah, I even find I will buy medicine from people who have affinity with those plants. Like, really, that's a lot of the magic in the medicine is is getting things from people who are passionate about it and who are connected. And we don't have to do everything. It's really like finding those who are passionate about it and good at it, and producing in a way that feels good for you, and trusting them and empowering and supporting them. So yeah. And plenty of people are busy doing other great things in the world, so are looking for that, for supportive medicine that they can trust is produced in a good way, grown and harvested in a good way.
And it's I mean, in some ways it's good that not everyone is an herbalist, because otherwise, we wouldn't have anyone to make. Well, we have things to make for us and our family. Okay. Anyway. But yeah, like I am more better at like making infused oils than I am at like tincture making, or other stuff. Everybody has their own, even some people are that are making creams. Disaster for me making cream, but my friend makes lotions, and she sells them. So she has a little business that, anyway. So it's a very involved process. Lots of ice. Well, she's moved out of the kitchen, but I remember she used to be my housemate, so there was lots of ice and all kinds of stuff, and I was like, that's too much for me. But yet for me, like, I'll make fresh, oils with fresh plants, and I'm like, that's not too much for me. Other people are like, I can't do it. It molds at the drop of a hat. Sorry. Anyway, but I think Heather was commenting on your beautiful green wall there earlier. It's very lovely. So I just wanted to express that. All right. I think. Oh, I didn't get a chance to write down all my questions. Like, where's all my questions? But one last question, because it's definitely probably time to wrap up. Do you have any like advice for anybody sort of wanting to get into studying herbalism? Like maybe where is a good place to start? I think something like maybe I know we mentioned the books, but total beginner.
Yeah. I mean, and that's going to depend on what different people are interested in. I would say start with like the safe stuff. We're kind of in this, like, everyone wants to move into rock star status, and moving towards more endangered plants sometimes is what I'm seeing more of, or plants that people have heard of that have very specific intentions, and really learning sort of those precursors to that are abundant, the plants that are like, I am here screaming, like, I'm here for you. So learning the weeds is a big thing, really learning those weeds, or even learning a plant that someone has a resonance with. Maybe they're like, well, that's not an herb. Well, it might just be exactly the plant that they need. So I would say start there, and starting with a plant, of course, learning if it is safe, and then using it in every way possible. Drink it, sleep with it, draw it, talk to it, eat it, anything that you can do so that you can learn it on all those levels. So instead of looking for 50 plants, start with 1 or 2. And just really hone in. I mean, herbalism there's a few simple things, but it also can be as complex as one desires. So start simple. Some other good books are finding like some medicine making books. One that I actually had here that I meant to show, Body into Balance. This is a great Maria Noel Groves. That's another great book. I wouldn't say like it's a total beginner book, but pretty beginner. Lots of medicine making, as well as some sort of systems, a little bit of anatomy and physiology to learn a little bit more about systems. And it's also just really beautiful. So it's got a lot of like coffee table beauty to it as well, but a lot of functional information. So that's a great book to add. That's also just really beautiful and inspiring. So yeah. But I would say that start simple. Learn the ones that are already there whispering very loudly. Yeah, and really get to know those. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap up. So I'd really love to thank Jamie for joining us today and chatting, telling her story with us, spending almost 2 hours with us. So I appreciate that. Yep, check out all of her links and stay tuned for those classes and everything else. So we're going to say goodbye to Jamie, and then I will do a brief wrap up with everyone. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much,
Katie, for joining us, making a very on cue. We had a little conversation. I was texting your cat, and we said we're going to come on at this time. I'm like, good idea. So, anyway. All right. All right. Well, thank you. And hopefully we will be chatting on the internet again, either on your channel or mine again. We'll see. Lots of things.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay. All righty. Awesome. So I want to thank everybody for joining me today. And also everyone who is watching this on the replay in the future. My cat hairs are either my cat ears are crooked or my ponytail is crooked. I have no idea. I want to say hello to Karen, who has just joined us for the end. So hello. Thank you, Heather and Roman, who've been here in the chat. Okay. Yes. So, let's see. We are going to. Yes. So I'd like to thank Jamie again for joining us. Our next interview is actually on Friday, the 30th of October at 12 p.m. Eastern. It's not kind of our normal Tuesday time, but we had to change it schedule a bit. That is my cat in the background, and I have no idea why he is meowing. So if you're interested, Stories from the Earth, we have a Facebook group. The link is in the description. Anyone who wants to be interviewed or anyone who just wants to keep up with the interviews or participate, please check that out. You don't have to be like a professional herbalist. You could just be somebody who is a plant person who's interested in chatting about herbs and plants and health. I also have a Patreon page if you'd like to support these interviews and this channel. Links are all in the description. And the Patreon is because at some point in the future, I would love to be able to travel and, do these interviews on the road. I don't know. We'll see. That takes a camera, that takes money. But anyway, so that's one of the things that you would be supporting with the Patreon. If I wanted to visit other herbalists in other states and things like that. So, all right. So I will see everybody on the 30th, and I hope everyone has a lovely day. This video will be up in about 24 hours on YouTube. It's already up on the Facebook group because we stream it live. Okay. So, all right, guys. yes, Karen, the replay, it's not going to be up until like tomorrow, because it takes a while. But just watch for it. Yes, so I'll see everyone later. Bye.